Hello and welcome, fellow digital soldiers, to True Reporting. It is January 16th, and on today's podcast, we will be going over a geopolitics.com article entitled More Undeniable Signs That the Global Criminal Cabal is Going Down. And we see Ruth Bader Ginsburg here. I believe her to be 6 feet in the dirt where she belongs. And this actually came out yesterday, January 15th. A lot of good information in this article. I found it to be very informative, so I needed to share it with you guys. There's also a lot of good information coming from this channel, so you found a good place to hang out and to get good information. So with that being said, guys, real quick, would you please click the bell on my channel to get notifications so when I post, you'll be the first to know. Also, follow me on Twitter at True Reporting, and don't forget to leave a like on this video. The more likes that this video receives, the more times it is recommended to other viewers, thus more eyes on the truth. And with that being said, my friends, let's go ahead and hop into it. This is True Reporting. So they say here, there are now a number of undeniable signs that the global criminal cabal is going down big time. This is in addition to previous events that saw the panic of the Bushes, Clintons, and the Bidens. The deep state actors in the U.S. are now running out of options, that they are now propping up those previously unknown personalities to run for the highest office in 2020. Bernie Sanders is still unacceptable for the Democrats. Anyway, it is interesting to note that the recent resignation of the World Bank president Jim Yong Kim, that was huge, guys, not only coincided with the fall of the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Bader Ginsburg and Serena Rothschild, both died obviously, but it is also navigating along the same path as his predecessor, ex-Goldman Sachs banker Robert Zoellick, who himself resigned as WB chief along the thousands of other banking CEOs in the early part of 2012, which eventually culminated in the papal resignation of Benedict Ratzinger, the highest-ranking pedophile coddler of the Roman Empire during his time as the Pope. Remember also that the incumbent Catholic Pope Bergoglio has promised early in his indefinite term that there will be some sort of debt forgiveness. Only to renege later on because frankly, the Jesuit Rothschild banking dynasty doesn't own anything of real value, but only on paper, as the whole gang of criminal misfits never in their lives worked in a farm. There are occult magicians who have been leveraging on the gullibility of the masses for centuries, if not for a millennia, but there are inherent limits to every empirical ambition. This is a very good article, my friends. I hope you're listening. As everyone now knows, the European decadent organization is now being confronted with mass movements from people who are tired of austerity measures in the midst of opulent royal rituals and by populist leaderships that are directly mocking on the panicky deep state actors that are still holding government positions. We are now seeing the beginning of the end of the reign of unelected parliamentarians and that of the European Union itself. Absolutely. Merkel, Macron, these people are being bombarded with yellow vests. There is a revolt in the EU, guys. Kings and queens have also resigned to make way for progressive-minded individuals to sign off for the global collateral accounts that were pre-programmed to be used for planetary development 80 years ago, but systematically siphoned off world, or at least used in massive underground black projects in the mid-1950s that had nothing to do with improving human lives on Terra. Before these royal resignations, Paradise, California, devastated by a very obvious direct energy weapon attack that melted everything metallic, transmuted glass into thin air, pulverized housing material on contact, but not rubber and plastic. But the real giveaway is the linear and pulse patterns that the energy weapon have swept across the targeted areas. and we all remember that. There's a small picture of it for you. Just did not make any sense, guys. The pseudo-environmentalists are expected to capitalize on this for their nefarious global warming climate change mantra that the Trump government happens to be in complete disagreement with. Here's the kicker, though. The Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E Corporation, is now preparing to file for bankruptcy after the successful ignition of the California wildfire. Unbelievable, guys. I have a podcast over that if you care to check back in later in the videos for previous videos. California's largest power company, facing up to $30 billion in potential liability over its role in recent California wildfires, said early Monday it intends to file for bankruptcy. Pacific Gas and Electric said it plans to file the petition to reorganize under Chapter 11 of the U.S. Bankruptcy Code on or about January 29, 2019. And guys, this came out yesterday, so it's very up to date. The company was acting under a new state law requiring it to tell employees at least 15 days before a change of control in the company, including the bankruptcy filing, CBS News. It so happens that one of the board of directors is Mr. Kimmel, who is the vice chairman of the Rothschild Incorporated. I also had that mentioned in a video of mine earlier a couple weeks ago. International investment banking firm, and has held the position since January 2001. Prior to the joining Rothschild Incorporated, Mr. Kimmel was a partner in the international law firm of Latham & Watkins LLP. Mr. Kimmel has been a director of PG&E Corporation and Pacific Gas and Electric Company since 2009. He also is the non-executive chairman of the board of Endo International PLC, Global Specialty Healthcare Company. Oh, Lord. He was formerly a director of Shift Nutrition International Incorporated, vitamins and nutritional supplement company from 1996 to 2012. What are the odds that a Rothschild stooge is sitting at the helm of PG&E, and that same company was reported to have its own transmission towers triggered the wildfire? Today, the Central Bank of Russia indicated that over the last 6 months, it has unloaded its dollar reserves further down to 21.9% when it converted 100 billion foreign reserves into won, yen, and euro, in line with the systematic decapitation of the Rothschild Jesuit banking empire. The Russians are already preparing for a complete shutdown of the Visa and MasterCard with their own MIR payment system. Whoa. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve System can't hide its own bankruptcy anymore, while it is undergoing its own covert blackout or bailout that is probably very hard to trace, much like the Pentagon failed its first ever audit. As most of us know, all private central banks are under a common umbrella controlled by the Rothschild banking dynasty, and the same operation that they did in 2008 is now being used to keep the Federal Reserve itself afloat. This is basically an open running bailout. Under this structure, you can transfer assets out of the federal government into private ownership, and nobody will know and nobody can stop it. God, they're such crooks. I hope they burn. This is no oversight whatsoever. You can't even know who is doing it. I'm telling you, they just took the United States government. They just changed the governance model by accounting policy to a fascist government. If you are an investor, you don't know who owns those assets, and there is no evidence that you do. If the law says you have to produce audited financial statements and you refuse to do so for 20 years, and then when somebody calls you on it, you proceed to change the accounting laws that you say you can now run secret books for all of the agencies and over 100 related entities. We cannot sit around and passively depend on a guy we elected president. The president cannot fix this. We need to fix this. This is the Main Street versus Wall Street. This is honest book versus dirty books. If you want the United States in 10 years to resemble anything what it looks like 20 years ago, you are going to have to do it, and there is no one else who can do it. You have to first get the intelligence to know what is happening. Catherine Austin Fitts. In the last 72 hours, the U.S. stealth B-2 bomber is positioned in Hawaii to make a statement. Russia is responding with its deployment of 30 Poseidon strategic underwater nuclear drones that are designed to create tsunami waves up to 500 meters, enough to wipe out shoreline vessels and marine bases. But it is the Chinese space program that is making the tectonic headlines across the world, as it successfully landed an unmanned spacecraft and a rover, which beamed its other cameras showing off the far side of the moon. This feat is not only politically symbolic, but it gives a real measure in the right direction, as it emboldens the Chinese to pursue the construction of a manned space station specifically designed to curtail and neutralize the massive Western weaponization of space that had been already used against China more than one occasion, i.e. Tianjin blast and several earthquakes, not just in China, but also in Southeast Asia. There is one thing left for China to do, i.e. the massive unloading of its U.S. Treasury bonds to pin down the deep state-controlled fiat financial system. This will be doubled down with India taking over the current U.S. second economic position at number 2. Hopefully, at that situation would unite Americans against their own common enemies, that is the Wall Street bankers, the military-industrial complex, and Big Pharma. Interestingly, it's very clear by now that there are sectors in the U.S. government that is also coordinating with China in order to diffuse tensions in the South China Sea, which means that some of those anti-China rhetorics are only meant to assure the deep state that their interests are still being considered by the Trump government. This strategy confuses and tortures the deep state players about their fate in the coming days and weeks. The border wall rhetorics and the government shutdown along with it are merely shadowboxing, but real actions are being taken care of behind the scenes. There are reports that some personalities are already being hoarded off to the newly renovated Guantanamo Bay prisons. Priority are given to those who profited from the endless wars of terror. Guys, this was a very good article, geopolitics.com. Please check them out. I felt that I needed to share that with you guys because a lot's changing for the better. We need to keep our chins up and stay optimistic because the White Hats, the Alliance, are winning. I believe they've already won, and they are just trolling the deep state at this point. We are on the brink of military tribunals. We are on the brink of sentencings of death, the death penalty, of life imprisonment in Guantanamo Bay. I think we're on the verge of seeing arrests also. We also have the declassification of the FISA and so much more, guys. There's going to be plenty of information coming from this channel, and I appreciate your attention. If you found this informative and you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. Please follow me on Twitter @TrueReporting, and please leave a like and share. You can also donate to this channel by going to my PayPal or my Patreon account in the description box below. Guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great one. Goodbye.